Yeah, that's what strange.
We're on a podcast talking about the 20th century,
Yes.
right? Here on the official 90s podcast, 90s Ride. Let me ride. Alexa, what's the best song from 1994?
Who?
This is...
I know the song.
Lady, I know it's only that. Oh man, people! If Alexa, stop. Anyone listening to that is like sweating out some old MDMA ecstasy. I guess it's
Who is
ecstasy
that?
back in.
What is that?
That was, and I know I can tell by the look in your
Oh,
eyes.
wow.
I don't know, some old song like
nonsense.
Stardust, maybe. I
Some
don't
old
know.
nonsense.
Something from the 90s, and we're here on the 1990s 90s Ride. My name is Mike AC DJ Olton, and across from me is Elite.
Yalatia.
Oh, he's here. He's got double duty today. He's going to be talking his face off today.
It's all good. It's what we do,
Right?
man. It's
But
what
this,
we do.
but this is what we do every single week. We come back and visit another year of the 90s, and
Yes.
eventually in 10 episodes, we're going to run out of fun, so we're going to repeat
But
shit.
so many things happened.
But this is what everyone's question. If you are an avid listener, well, you aren't yet because we haven't dropped these, but by the time you listen to this podcast, you will have discovered the other years of our
You'll have a few
podcast,
just to visit.
right? Because we will start to, people start to notice. And you'll be asking yourself, but what's going to happen after they run out of 10 years? There's only 9 years to go over.
You don't understand this very much.
Right?
It's not how it works.
We're gonna get super creative.
Yeah, it's not
then
how
it
it
just blossoms. After 9 episodes, that's the first season, and then the second season is even bigger.
Well, you got to understand, there's so many things outside of just events of the 90s.
Yes.
We lived it. There's fashion in the 90s, TV in the 90s, food.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different things that we have to talk about just to give people a full idea of what the 90s meant.
Yeah, and also later on this episode, we're going to talk with Jesse Smith. We're going to get on to a Zoom talk with him
Nice.
in about 30, 40 minutes, and we're going to get his prediction on the MMA fight that's coming up this year. And we're going to talk about UFC in the 90s.
Crazy.
I just realized I'm wearing my mask.
Very
Hey,
polite.
are you at that yet?
Very,
where
very
you,
polite of you.
Where you sometimes have the mask on and you forget that you have it on?
Oh, no, I hate it. I take it off the
reality.
second I don't need it on.
That's the reality. What was the big scare in the 90s for health? Was it SARS?
SARS was a big one.
That was what it was, right?
And Mad Cow.
Oh, we had mad cow as well. We had we had anthrax mad cow or whatever.
Weird. There was a whole Oprah beef thing and Mad Cow. And
yes.
Remember that whole Oprah
Yeah.
beef thing?
Yeah.
She sued beef.
Bro, thanks for waiting for me. I know we got off on a long
Salt
thing.
gravy?
I really appreciate it because, I always like to be on point.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight we're going to be visiting 1994, and I wanted to direct you to that number. Now, you sent me a number
Yeah.
when you said this,
Yeah.
and I double researched it, triple researched it. I didn't do an Alexa check,
Yeah.
but I did a Google check. Alexa doesn't have to be involved in
No,
everything.
he doesn't.
And this was, talk about the significance of this.
It's incredible because this was the population of the planet in 1994 that we already thought was unmanageable. So it's 5,663,150,427 human beings on the planet in 1994.
Yeah.
And now we're in 2021 and we're almost at 8 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 billion was told to be unmanageable. And now we're going to be doubling it in the next 5 years.
We are growing and dying at a phenomenal rate.
Yeah, we're
not dying
gigantic
enough.
parasite. Yeah, for sure.
Enter said epidemic.
Well, it's interesting because, China and Japan have a huge baby shortage because there's too many men, but not enough women, right? So that's going to begin to change things.
Do you ever think they'll put a stop on people having kids?
No, but weirdly, I think people are going to become sterile.
Weirdly?
Yeah. you know what's... we
Weird-
should really talk about more on the high phrase because
Yes.
of what current events. But
We'll keep
yeah,
this to the
the
90s.
shape of women's hips, I've read, is changing to not accommodate birthing. Birth canals are becoming more and more narrow.
Oh, really?
So I think it's kind of Mother Nature's way of saying, you assholes, there's too many people, too many of you.
Yeah, I remember
Slow
in the
down.
90s when we hit 5 billion. I remember that.
Huge.
And they said, oh, there's 5 billion people on the earth. I remember that. And everybody was blown away at that because at that point, Asia and India
yeah.
were big, but they were bigger in scope for us back then because they took up a big chunk of that 5%. Now, if we look at it, a billion, there's 7 billion. They take up a relatively smaller. America's starting to catch up a little
Yeah,
bit.
and Africa's got
And
a
Africa.
billion plus too, right? So
Right.
definitely changes things.
So what is the solution? Like we have a whole talk on this, and this is more high praise stuff, like you said. But in 1994, what was the solution to the? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't even think we were planning a solution because global warming wasn't even
wasn't a thing.
talked about thing in
Yeah.
1994, right? We didn't.
I don't
We
think
knew
so.
littering was bad. We knew recycling was good, but we didn't understand our impact on the planet the way we do today. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it was really different.
Yeah, so I don't think there was a method. I think religion was still a big institution, and people just thought, "Hey, man, God says we're supposed to have a lot of kids, so
Yeah.
let's have a lot of kids."
Oh yeah, because there were people having like 8 kids, 10
So
kids.
selfish.
Hey, it was crazy days back then.
Yeah. And now you think about that in perspective, and having a family that big is selfish because you're a drain on significant amount of resources, which is a weird thing because in the 90s you didn't think about being a drain on
Didn't think about
a
it.
family wasn't a drain on resources.
Yeah.
But
It wasn't
it really
until like
is.
97-ish when recycling really started becoming an issue.
Big deal.
Right? And then they started looking at these big families. How much are you consuming? How much paper are you using? All the baggies for lunch you're contributing. The lunch
Yeah.
baggies.
And then you get a family like they have now with the Duggars, where they got like 21 kids.
21 kids.
Nonsense like that, right?
They should be taken out.
Unacceptable.
We should drop a 1994 POD on them. Weapon of mass. Was it MDD? WMD. Yeah, it was a crazy time for population. It was, and it's going to, so what do you think, what was that, 24, how many years ago was 94? Was that 27 years ago?
Goodness, That's
27 years ago?
Jeez.
So 27 years from now, what's our population?
Oh God! Projections say we could easily hit 15 billion.
You think 15 billion?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's a lot of the planet that's uninhabited, right?
Yeah.
The planet can accommodate all of us. We just like to choose to group together in these massive, unaccommodating cities, right?
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to be right around 10 billion. I think that we're going to have epidemic after epidemic, flu after flu. I hate to say it, but I think, the world's going to start going to genocide type levels of certain cultures. And I think, it's going to be sad because it's the people in the rural cultures that need to live and the people in the cities that need to go, you know what I mean? And kind of thing. And, I don't want anybody to go, but obviously we're hitting max capacity in this planet.
yeah, and there's nobody that has the interest of making the planet more useful for everybody.
Yeah.
So
They should just go to like vegetarianism. And you know what's really funny is like when we were in 1994, if you were a vegetarian, you were considered gay
or weird.
or weird.
Like, you were a total outcast.
Right? Like if you were a man vegetarian, they're like,
Okay.
right?
weirdo.
Like what's wrong with
Eat a
you?
steak in your face, right?
Yeah, buddy. Like it was really different back then. They're like, man up, eat a steak. Man up.
Yeah, it was looked at as not
Eh?
manly.
And I
to be
think,
vegan.
and now going forward, I think we all need to stop eating animals.
It seems like that's the way that this population is going to survive and thrive.
We're going to hit 10. And I think if we could stop eating animals, we can safely hit 10 billion.
Yeah.
And put less pressure on the world to provide
Mm-hmm.
and make the world flourish with, with abundance of vegetables and fruit and make the soil healthy again.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a big
So
part
then
of
we
it.
flow. We just grow it. Who cares? We don't need protein.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, you could get your protein elsewhere.
Yeah.
right? And it's we have to get over the conversation of, well, plants have feelings too.
Yeah.
Plants are alive too. we have to get over that conversation because there's a lot of that still.
1994 is the year of the dog.
Hmm.
Anybody who's a dog one? I just thought I'd throw that in because I like the Chinese zodiac shit. Right? We're actually wearing this crowbar hat in tribute to a friend of mine who loves the zodiac sign, so they'd be happy. The year of the dog. Doesn't matter if you're a dog. Fuck whatever. 94 was your year, and I'm going to guess that this gentleman right here was not a dog. 'Cause dogs are lazy and they're laid back. This guy looks very energetic.
This guy is having way too much fun at the thought of what this picture represents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1994 was a really difficult year in Vancouver because it was the year they went to the Stanley Cup. They took a Game 7. Mark Messier
Amazing
called the win,
series.
and he brought it home. He scored a hat trick in Game number 6, which pissed off everybody. and there was rumblings of a riot and after game 6, and then
Yeah.
game 7 happened. It was a tragic loss, but morons in this city who take everything way too literal and personal
Shameful.
decided to go to downtown Vancouver and torch the place. And you could see by this photo, this douche who looks like what is he wearing under that jersey? Is he wearing like hockey gear?
It kind of looks like something with way too much
Stupid douche.
animation. But it's interesting that the one picture that we find is the brown guy front and center. When
Yeah.
we really know.
And
We really know who was riding and breaking shit.
yeah,
that
and
day.
that's why I brought that up, because I wanted you to say that. You know what I mean? Because yeah,
Cody over here.
yeah.
We know he lit that fire.
Look at his face. He looks high as hell. That was the
must
other
be.
reason why I put
Is
that.
that a camera in his hand?
That's 1994. So that's a camera.
Interesting.
Yeah, they had cameras and shit back then.
Yeah, that was honestly, it's a black eye on Vancouver.
Huge.
It's a massive blemish on the sports community. It shows that we have zero regard for what our city is supposed to represent.
And
So,
and we haven't changed.
yeah, no,
We
Happened
haven't
again.
changed.
It happened again when we went to the finals against Boston.
If we ever win, it will happen again.
100%.
Because we are, and I hate to say this on a Vancouver podcast, but we are a city with a lot of entitled people with too much money
So spoiled.
and nothing to do with it.
So spoiled.
Right? That's what it is.
It's one of the only cities that you could drive downtown Vancouver and see Lamborghinis, Porsches, all these fancy cars with an
nothing.
L
Trying
and
to
an
get-
N on the back.
Trying to get laid.
With an L and an N on the back, which means there's a 17, 18-year-old kid driving these high-end supercars. But yeah, no, Vancouver's a spoiled city. It's an entitled city. And the crazy thing is, at this time, we weren't considered a major city.
Yeah.
At this time, we
Yeah.
didn't really begin.
This might be in 2011 photo.
It might be, but we weren't really considered a major city until the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Before that, we were just a part of Canada.
Yeah.
That's it.
What do you think is the reputation of Vancouver after that? Do you think the Olympics was kind of, because we had another one in after the Olympics, right? So there was 2011,
Against the Bruins.
right? I wonder how they were able to get the Olympics here because of Vancouver. I think that was like a tricky, whoever came up with the sales pitch deck,
Whoever had that fat wad to bribe the IOC
You know,
to come to
right, was able to come to Vancouver and fix their reputation, right?
yeah,
And then we lost it again in 2011. So what do you think now is the reputation of Vancouver?
I think people still love Vancouver.
Think so? So it's beautiful?
I think there's still that prevailing it's way too expensive of a place to live in.
Yeah.
And that's obvious because everyone's broke in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So I think that stigma brings rich people. Rich people kind of,
Yeah.
that gigantic property tax help keeps the city beautiful and
yeah.
being an attractive place for people to come.
And you know what's crazy is in 94, we didn't have technology like we do now.
No.
So it was the news, staying up late, watching the late news
Yeah,
and watching
yeah.
it, right?
I remember seeing a couple of my idiot friends in this ride.
Oh yeah, I knew some people who got charged and
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And it was different back then because it kind of was like now in the 2011 when you lived in the moment of it, people were recording and they
Yeah,
were
for
taking
sure.
photos, and it was like the moment was happening, right?
Yeah.
Facebook was on fire because it just came out, but it might have even helped Facebook in Vancouver. Hey, the riots might have actually helped. Of course, the fire helped Mark
This just
Zuckerberg.
goes to show that, people like to claim that, our life's so hard. If you're riding over a hockey game, your life is not that difficult. Not that difficult.
Life is not that difficult in Vancouver, everybody.
Not
Trust
protest
me.
a Loss.
Come to Vancouver if you want to just get lost and not
And
try.
be broke.
And be broke, but have lots of friends and fun times and have people with you. Welcome to Vancouver. Speaking of staying in sports, 1994, we started off with some grim shit, and let's go to a little something else. In 1994, this is something the kids don't know about. They don't remember because they weren't alive in 94. That's why we're here, to let you guys know that the three-point line, they actually moved the three-point line in 1990. Did you not know this?
No.
Oh, yes. Research.
Interesting.
In 1994, they actually moved the line about 3 feet.
That's a big step back.
Yeah. So the NBA one was 23 feet
Yeah.
and 9 inches, right? So to get the corner.
Well, athletes were evolving so dramatically, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of helped propel the change of the NBA into this kind of a new
They needed it.
offensive three-point shooting league, because if you are an NCAA basketball player shooting from 20 feet and then you're making the jump to the NBA, and you're adding 3 feet onto your shot, dude. That's a big difference.
Huge.
So you have to change your body, change your mechanics, change your power. You got to change all of that to really make do, right?
Yeah.
That's why now when you see guys like Dame Lillard, Steph Curry shooting from half court, like it's a free throw, it's because of these shifts in the game.
Yes, man.
These propelled those radical athletic changes, right?
Yeah. So it went from 23 feet 9 inches to 22 feet. And they did that in the NBA to say, you know what, maybe we need to, put it a little bit closer, encourage people to take more threes and to, liven up the game a little bit more, right?
Yeah, because this version of the NBA at the time in '94 was still kind of a post-man dominated game, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on in.
Come on in, Quiz.
All right. So a little trivia for you, 1994 trivia. Who that you're queasing the building? Oh, the beautiful. What's her name? Evelyn, what's up, Evelyn?
Hey, Evelyn.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah, beautiful dog,
Look at that thing.
There's no cats in here, is there?
No, there's no
And only in the
cats.
house.
Cats in the house. Who was the 1994? What player set career highs in 3-point attempts and converted 3-point field goals in 1994, nearly double of their previous status?
1994.
Was one of their highest years for 3-point attempts and converted in the history of their career, in their total career. Who do you think? 1994.
I don't want to say Tracy McGrady because he wasn't really a big 3-point shooter, and he wasn't there at that time. 94. What team?
The Chicago Bulls.
Are we really going MJ?
Yes, sir.
But he was never really a prolific 3-point shooter.
No, but conspiracy says, hey, Mike, how's it going? Listen, we're going to, we had this idea about, we're going to move the line closer. How, we're going to be about 6 inches closer. No, I need a foot. All right, Mike, we're going to move about a foot closer. Hey, listen, you move it a foot closer, I'll start taking more 3-pointers. All right, I'll encourage the guys. I'll show the guys that, Mike, MJ is going to be shooting threes now. So you got to watch out for MJ on the 3, right?
It's not a good one.
Right? And then everybody started following suit. Nobody knew that Michael Jordan set career highs in 94. That was the first and only year that he was his highest
Yeah, and I
career
think he
attempt.
was always like a
94.
mid-30s for 3 points. He was never really a good 3-point shooter. Not his game.
Mike, grow
He
the game.
didn't need it. He didn't need the game.
And this is a thing that people don't realize about, now it's exposed, overexposed the game. But back then, when it was growing, NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB, whoever went to their stars and said, hey, we need you to...
We need ratings.
We need you to do something. All right. We need you to take 100,000. We need you to take 200 threes.
Mike
What?
has no faith in any sports at all whatsoever. No faith.
Dude.
You have no faith in athletic integrity.
Ken Griffey Jr. in 1994, June of 1994, set the single month record for home runs at 31 home runs hit in a single month.
And he was swole. Boom.
1994, beginning of the season was yeah. Hey,
Do
listen,
you think he was on some of the juice?
listen, Junior. Do I think he was?
Do you think he was pre-Sosa, Barry Bonds?
No. I think Junior was natural, and I think he just came from a long history of athletic.
Supreme DNA.
He's one of those ones that did like a Bo Jackson. I don't believe ever did it.
Right.
He was just a natural athlete, and he was in a
Great
soft
genes.
sport.
Yeah,
Good
his
genes.
Pops was an athlete.
Played with his dad, right, at the end in Cincinnati. At
I'm
the
not a
end,
baseball fan, but
right.
yeah,
So
I know
he
that.
played with his dad and shit. So he just had a long lineage of really healthy genes, right? And I think
Kind of like that
was
whole
it.
Del Curry, Steph Curry.
Yeah.
He literally passed on his shooting touch to his kid.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal.
Listen, Junior, we need you to swing at every fucking pitch. We need you to hit home runs, all right?
'em up.
Rack them up, baby. Rack them up.
Ooh, is that iconic?
Yeah. Wow. So this is probably the highlight of 1994.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I don't think anything was bigger in 1994 than this.
Not even close. No.
And if you're listening on Spotify right now, oh, fuck.
You hit the keyboard.
I want you to think about that for a second.
I'll put my hand up so you know how to get back.
All right. What the hell happened? Something's... I put the headphones down on the.
You had headphones around your neck and headphones on your head.
All right. So, what do you think, people at home listening on Spotify? What do you think it is?
Ooh.
1994.
You would really have no context unless you came from the 90s or unless you're a weird historian that likes 90s events.
If you filmed a commercial about a black man running through an airport in today's world, it would startle all of the white people around him, or people would be like, "What's this guy? Oh, he's running, mask on, running through the airport. What's going on? Why is there no police chasing him?" Right? Back then when the Juice was running through the airport, it was like, oh my God, it's the Juice!
Yeah.
Everyone was so happy to see the Juice. Yeah. When the Juice walked in the room, it was like, Juice! And the host was like serving juice in tribute to the guy. Orange juice for everybody. Right? In tribute.
Yeah.
He was loved back then. There was no fear of a black man running through an airport.
He said, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
I'm
He
OJ!
made it clear. He's not black.
That's why when this happened, half of the people standing out there were white people.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of black people. They were in certain areas. But when you see on the news,
His name is Orenthal. Okay?
from the very beginning, and I say this because when you watch it, sure, there were black people, but when you watched it on the thing, there were tons of white crackers,
they love
like
OJ.
redneck motherfuckers out there.
I love OJ.
And that's what they used. And they used that shit in the following in the media.
Camcorders.
Yeah, dude, they
Big
started showing.
shoulder-based camcorders.
As soon as he went on this, his lawyers were like, all right, we got to start planning this one, right?
Now,
Biggest thing.
Context for you watching, the dude in the driver's seat is not OJ.
No.
That's not OJ.
That wasn't
That's his
OJ.
best friend, his ride or die, his road dog,
Rolling.
Al Cowlings, and OJ is in the back seat, hunkered down, talking to the police
Unbelievable.
about turning himself in. This
Yeah.
was the fastest, longest slow speed chase I've seen in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Because they weren't driving fast. Just cruising.
And it made CNN, it made a lot of newscasters. It changed the game, man, way they
Created
covered
careers.
stuff, right? Like it was really the biggest high profile celebrity issue, that we had.
Now, what do you think the conversation is right before OJ hits send on his car phone?
Yeah, on his car phone.
What do you think
Yeah.
he's saying to AC?
He's saying, buddy, I fucked up, man. Oh, Juice, it's okay, Juice. Juice, listen, man, they know you're the Juice. You didn't do anything, bro. You're the Juice. He did say, right? And he's like, no, but man, why'd she have to suck his dick, man? She knew that would get to me. She'd go fuck anybody she want, but she had to suck, right? Like it was one of those. Sorry for being so graphic, but that's what the Juice was so upset about.
Do you think
it was
maybe
in the news?
Maybe she caught him
Give him a moral.
cheating with Kim Kardashian's mom, with Kris Jenner? Because he could be Khloe's dad, right?
He is Chloe's dad. We're calling this out right now on the 90s Ride. It is Chloe's dad.
Because this is the final season of the
Oh, yeah.
Kardashians. This is the final season.
They're gonna just let it
They're going
let
out
it
with a bang.
out.
Oh, dude, my wife just loves this right now. This last season, she's
Yeah.
just all about it.
So
It's
if
incredible.
he did, Chloe, they have a whole reality show.
Then would you say that Kris Jenner's to blame for the death that
Of
was
Nicole?
caused? Because
Oh boy,
if they were cheating and she got busted and then she went and cheated out of reciprocity for
Mm-hmm.
being cheated on, and then the juice got loose.
okay. So I got a friend who lived and worked in Los Angeles and the Hollywood shit back in the day.
Oh damn!
Was right in the scene. Was a bodyguard.
Very
Was
seedy.
like a
Very.
extra on some shows and movies,
Seen some
and
shit.
sold some drugs to stars and
He's seen some shit.
Yeah, he's seen some shit. And he goes, look, what makes Hollywood go is the fact that these people all believe they're so special. They just bang each other. They don't try to like step outside of the fame circle.
act like
Most of these people are like, oh my God, like there's so-and-so, the actor. I'm going to bang him. Right? And then she goes and bangs him. And then it's like, oh, guess who I banged? I ganged, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's a big thing in that circle. Right? So that's why men work so hard to become famous. Is because it's true. Men's primal urge is, I'm just going to go.
Dude, men are weak, yo. And basic.
true.
And basic.
It's basic, but that's the thing. That's the trap in Hollywood. So they trap you, and then they blackmail you, and then they got you, and then you fucking sign contracts.
Yeah.
And it's the true deal. He goes, dude, it's true.
And can I tell you one thing about this?
Yeah.
This is one still image I've actually never seen.
Yeah.
Interesting how I've seen every angle of this event, and this is still a new
So I
picture.
thought it was a really good one.
It really is.
Right, you saw the intensity of the chase, and when we were watching this on TV, I was watching the Houston Rockets demolish the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, so good.
Akeem Olajuwon, Dream,
Ooh.
the Dream Shaker was
Shake
in
and bake.
full effect.
Couldn't touch him.
And then they went, doop, pitcher in pitcher. There was a thing called pitcher in pitcher back then,
Right, it interrupted the game.
right?
as it was
Interrupted the
happening.
game. So I put the game up in pitcher, and then watched OJ drive, and they interrupted. Oh my God! And it was Tom Brokaw. We have a thing of OJ Simpson's driving down the street. Right?
It's so interesting how this is so, it ties into what's happening now when people talk about defund the police. And the reason I say it is because there's one car, 2 men in the car. And how many police cars do we see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that are on in frame. And I'm sure there's more out of the frame. Why did you need 10 police cars?
Yeah,
To chase someone slowly? What were they expecting to happen here?
they were just like,
Like an army was going to show up for OJ? Come on
Yeah.
now.
I
Ain't nobody fucking with OJ like that.
this was sensationalized. It was made a big deal
Yeah.
by the police. The police said, "Oh my God, OJ's on TV. Send the whole force. We have to show that we're on top of this." They send the entire force
He's
down.
so dangerous. Dangerous
Right?
black man. But honestly, people that were brown and black they don't care. They never cared for OJ.
Yeah.
We were happy when he was. I hate saying this, but we kind of like silently celebrated when he was not guilty.
Yeah.
But
we did.
That's just because it's this black guy beating the system.
We did.
Otherwise, people didn't really fuck with OJ.
In that same year, just before we move on, in that same year, Rodney King, who was beaten earlier in the decade
Savagely.
by the police, was silently awarded $3.8 million compensation by Los Angeles County for his police beating. Quietly, just kind
The
of.
more shit change, the more it stays the same.
Yeah.
Let's not criminalize the police, but I'll give you millions of dollars for something we didn't do to you.
Yeah.
Come on.
Quietly slipped into
Come on.
and signed an NDA and shut the fuck up and go spend your money.
Yeah. This is big.
This was a big deal here in the 90s. We're doing 1994 here, and we're talking about one of the other biggest deals here.
15 then, yo.
It's 15, man. Did you you remember? I can't say I really remember this because it didn't affect me like it would have with homosexual people.
Yeah.
And I guess you can't even say it. Do you say homosexual? You can
Yeah,
say
that's the
homosexual.
word.
Right? And this is when the Supreme Court finally acknowledged same-sex marriage in Canada.
But they rejected it.
But they rejected it. They acknowledged it,
Yeah.
but they rejected
So
it.
here's the thing, okay? I was 15 at the time, and at this time, there was still a huge bias towards the homosexual population.
Big time.
And, you could freely still use gay slurs, and nobody really cared.
Yeah.
Even
Even on
straight dudes
TV.
would use it towards each other all the time. It was.
You're so gay.
Yeah, or the F word.
Yeah.
The homosexual slur, and
Yeah.
it's just funny how we use it so freely and not care.
Yeah, it's weird.
It wasn't even a thing when you're a 15-year-old in the 90s.
Yeah.
So when this happened, this whole idea of gay marriage, equal rights for the homosexual population, for me it didn't affect me because I didn't know anybody gay.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. You want free rights? Yeah, you should have. Everyone should be able to marry anybody. I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But religiously, I grew up in a Muslim household, and it wasn't talked about like that.
Yeah.
Because any of the Abrahamic faiths teach homosexuality to be a sin. So when you hear the adults around you saying, "Oh, it's so bad," I'm like, why do y'all care? Why do you care who they sleep with?
Yeah.
But I think it's different because we were exposed to so many different things that made homosexual normal, homosexuality normal. We didn't really think it was a weird thing, that generation. But at the same time, we had no problem using slurs.
Yeah, it was
against homosexual
really-
people. It was a very strange thing.
Well, because we were taught that by our adults, right? We were still taught and called that. Hey, little girly man. Hey? Right? Wear dress.
Yeah.
Like shit like that. That's just like, now kids are like, yeah, I do want to wear a dress. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, you're like, it's different, man. Our philosophy now, because we're older and we're supposed to have kids and teach it, we're going to erase all of this. This is going to be all
Do you
erased.
remember at this age having any openly gay friends?
Weirdly, in 1994, I had a friend of mine. Oh, he won't listen. He won't be listening. I have a friend of mine who stayed over at my house and stole a pair of my underwear.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Okay, now do you think this was a perversion, or do you think he may have had an accident and had to take them?
That's a good question. I never thought about that, actually. Question option B. I always thought he had a thing for me. That's all I ever thought. I thought he had a thing for me, and I accepted him. Right? I accepted him. I was like, thank you. I'm flattered.
We ain't fucking with that.
Was one of my favorite pair of briefs back in the day. That's how I knew they were gone, because there's only one person around in the room. And I was like, okay, all good. But you know what? But there was no one open.
Yeah.
There was a guy in my town who was who was in the closet. He was a fighter. And I was like, yeah, athlete, right?
That would have been really hard.
Hard to come out.
Almost twice as hard as an athlete.
Yeah.
Because you know at that time you're going to be ridiculed hard and heavy. Yeah. But it just goes to show that how close-minded even the Canadian Liberal government would have been, where they just shot down the idea of gay marriage.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
Yeah.
We're a Christian country, damn it.
Yeah.
We're not allowing this.
No options.
Not allowing this kind of shit in our country.
Yeah, it's really sad. And you know, it shows like Queer as Folk come
Savage.
out. You know, Oz came out. Like a lot of shows that depicted, you know, Will and Grace and all that. Like all these '90s shows, kind of that came out and started really even
pushing it.
Yeah, even Oz, like as gruesome as Oz was, the prison show, right? And they showed some really violent homosexual acts and stuff.
Yeah.
It was still like it pounded, pardon the pun, it pounded homosexuality into the mainstream. Right?
So skillful.
Right?
So
like
skillful.
it did. It made us think like, oh my God, there's this fucking crazy. You go to prison and all this gay stuff, and then maybe I should go to prison. Right? It happened, but it lessened, it desensitized us to it in a weird way.
Yeah, the normalization of it, seeing it was a really big deal because we needed to. As teenagers in the 90s, we needed to be exposed to it because we were very close-minded.
Yeah.
And we needed to see that, hey, all relationships are normal.
Dude,
Even Bronx Tale came out, right?
Yeah.
Even that relationship between an Italian guy and a black girl was so hard for Italians.
Yeah.
They always had a huge resentment towards, they had slurs against black people in
Big
all
time.
those mafia movies.
Big time.
But even that relationship between a black girl and an Italian guy was like, wow.
That was big.
This is a big deal now.
That was a big movie, man.
I'm fucking close-minded, man.
Yeah.
Y'all in the 2020s now, you don't get it. You
No.
don't get how impactful this was.
Well, it's because we've learned so much. You know, we've advanced.
not a long time.
We've evolved.
It's not a long time. It's 27 years. Gay marriage was a hard no in Canada, y'all.
Dude, in 20 years from now, you're going to be marrying animals.
Let's not go there.
Okay, next. Look at the giant air conditioner at the top of that stadium. What was that thing? Was that a speaker? What is that?
It's probably a speaker.
Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, it's colossal.
Tiesto's like, I need that. I like that at my next
Just so he can put
concert.
his hands up and not DJ. Yes.
I'd want that. The first multiracial election ever in South Africa occurred in 1994. It was the end of apartheid as they knew it because of one man.
End of apartheid by title.
By title.
The
philosophy would take a lot of years. It's still leaving. Still very broken, but it still has to take a lot of years to get it out of there. It's seeming like what's really tragic is what I've learned is that people that don't agree with the racism in South Africa leave, and it leaves all the racist people there.
This was very symbolic more than anything else because Mandela had to negotiate a lot of rights away in order to gain this presidency. He essentially was just president by name, but the structure of apartheid would still govern all his policies. He couldn't make any significant changes.
Yeah, and they ran the election with an independent and outside source, so it wasn't them running it. It was like another country or a council from another country came in and did it, and they won it with like 62% or something, 65% of the vote.
It was inevitable. I mean, he was an icon. He served a third of his life in prison.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
See, that's why I thought when I had a chance.
And the crazy thing for me is we see Mandela now, and there's so many different depictions of Mandela on media that people almost don't remember who Mandela was. They all associate him with, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Associate him with the young
Yes, they
Alba.
do.
But that's not Mandela. Mandela was a individual, a powerful individual, right?
And Liz literally sucked it up for 25 years. Like literally said, okay,
took it.
I'm doing this for a reason. There has to be a reason. There
That's
has
beautiful,
to be.
man. That's powerful.
Right? That's what he did.
Powerful.
He had to convince himself that this was for a reason, that
Mm-hmm.
everything is, even if I die here, that someone's going to take the ball and run with it.
Yeah.
And he believed it. And he had no idea it would be him.
One of my neighbors growing up in South Van was a woman with her family, and she was from South Africa. And I remember her telling us stories about how even in the 90s and early 2000s, they left in 2004, they left South Africa in 2004. In the early 90s, she would take her kids to the pools, and white South Africans would get out of the pool.
Wow.
Get out in the 90s, man.
Wow.
They would get out of the pool when she would show up with her kids because they didn't want to be contaminated in their
Yeah.
world, right? It's horrible.
Well, you got to still remember this, bro. Like the 90s, I know it seems so civilized, but if we really look back in the 90s, 27 years ago, we're so barbaric compared to how we are now.
Unbelievable.
We're fucking like
They
cavemen.
could just hide it better because there wasn't that access to constant media, right?
Oh, dude, totally. Like it was really a sad, like if we were to go time warp back there, we would be like, who are these people? What are they wearing? Like, look at them. Right? Like it'd be like,
significant.
yeah, buddy. And we never processed thoughts back there. Back then we were really being thought for us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like we had the book that told us about history, and that's what we based everything on. We didn't base anything on current knowledge of anything.
Yeah, and
We
I think
based it on history in a book.
We were able to live a little more in the moments
Yeah.
because we weren't constantly distracted, right? There wasn't a constant stream of stuff coming at us. So
Yeah.
I think we lived a little bit more in the moment then. And when we would see incidents and events like this, they were monumental. It's hard for an event to be monumental worldwide now because
Yeah.
there's just so much stuff happening all the time.
Yeah, like
Constant stream of
everybody who
events.
lived through Obama or was there. This was Obama before Obama. And
Yeah.
if this had been in
real.
the time of Obama, it would have been bigger than Obama.
Yeah, because South Africa was an apartheid state.
Yeah, yeah.
And they controlled all affairs. And people got to understand, South Africa, it's kind of one of the birthplaces of the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
This is one of the first places that openly had white settlers that dominated the African population.
Yeah.
So for this to be free of that in the 90s was really significant.
crazy.
Really significant.
And now it's like really sad, but South Africa's falling apart.
Well, now the news is a little bit different because now black farmers are starting to take land back from white South Africans, and it's almost, I don't want to say a role reversal because the power structure is still there, but
Yeah.
it's begun to get to that point where black people are taking back their ownership of the country. And South Africa's a beautiful place.
It's
man.
beautiful, but they're running out of water. They've got a lot of issues, right? And they need new infrastructure. Their infrastructure is super old, and they need to like.
What they need is some of these black American billionaires. And the onus is not on them, but it should be a little bit
True.
on them to go back.
Yeah.
And rebuild what Akon's doing, right?
Yeah,
With his
Econ's
city.
amazing.
Yeah.
Now we got to profile. You guys got to profile Econ on
Yeah, we
your
got to
on
talk about
point,
Akon a little bit for sure.
right?
I'm still mad at him for doing a song with Tekashi, but that's whatever.
All right, so we'll hustle through these last ones. You guys got the on point one. You guys are going to be recording.
Yeah, we got some time.
We got some time still. This tragedy happened with the Solar Templar. Wow. Tell me about this because I forgot about this till you reminded me of this.
It's interesting
Today.
because 90s seemed to be a time for cults.
It was cults and murders.
All over North America, there were
Yeah.
cults.
Yeah.
And
Serial killers. And
yeah,
stuff.
and it's a strange thing because people really just wanted to be away and rid of the system. And this was like a last gasp attempt at a lot of small groups of people that didn't want to be where we are at now.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of foresight. The thinking was right. The thinking of not being completely dependent on one source of an economic system was right. That part of it was right.
Yeah.
The free thinking, free living, growing your own food, this kind of self-sustaining communities.
Yeah.
These ideas were in the right vein, but the belief system was broken because these guys believed the
Solar Templar.
the Templar thinking,
Templar.
the Knights Templar thinking that they belonged to this Knights Templar group. Rosicrucian, Opus Dei, devout,
Morons.
punitive Christian beliefs, right? The belief that you
Brutal.
have to punish yourself in order to be at one with Jesus. We kind of saw a reintroduction to it with the Dan Brown, Angels and
Yeah.
Demons, and Da Vinci Code books. They kind of reintroduce these
Yeah.
concepts and topics. But these guys committed mass suicide across the world, not just in North America. This one in particular is more interesting because it happened right here in Canada,
Yeah.
in Quebec. And the belief was that they would kill themselves and rejoin the kingdom of God and
Morons. And now they're...
be exalted in the afterlife.
Oh, it's brutal.
And they also believed in castration.
So, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't read
and
that
removing
part.
their sexual organs.
Removing the temptation.
Yeah, there were a handful of their believers that went ahead and did it.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine losing your junk for your belief?
Wow.
That's a big deal.
Well, it's weird because they even said on here, some of them, a lot of the people didn't want to die. They wanted to keep living. They're like, hold on, that wasn't in the sign up. But, they're like looking through the paperwork. Wait a minute. I don't see the kill yourself part at a certain time, right? And so they said, oh, you're not believing.
Yeah.
So then they tied him up probably and fucking made him suffer instead of drinking the juice, right?
And there's this never-ending belief in this Holy Grail, right? The idea of the Holy Grail. And it's something that Christians have, that they cling to with all their might. And it almost is a part of the belief of why Israel exists today, right? It's the sustaining of this area of the world where there might be a Holy Grail tucked away somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And their belief was that the Holy Grail belongs to Christians. And if for those of you that aren't religious and don't care about religion, the idea of the Holy Grail is that it was like the chalice of Christ.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the one artifact that'll be the redeeming piece of Christians' belief that gets them into heaven afterwards.
Yes.
But they're keeping it for Christ.
Indiana Jones.
Christ is going to come back and he's going to want his cup back.
Yes.
Kick Christ's cup.
His pimp cup.
Because we know he can't drink out of a regular cup.
Hey, put some water in this. I'm going to show you a trick. All right? Put some water in this.
Just to wine.
Look at this. Wine, motherfuckers, wine!
and alchemy may be another conversation for another day, but
Jesus.
this is a serious belief system.
Yeah.
And there are a group of Christians that still believe in it.
They did. And this nowadays is called a multi-level marketing campaign. What they did back here in 1994. This is called an MLM today because you're basically just burning up in the fire and the
juice.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think how they eliminated all these cults and shit before now, because now they could be, someone starts something online, Proud Boys, anything, they shut them down.
But I mean, these what people consider a cult now, it's not really a cult because you got to understand, 90s cults, they had compounds.
Yeah.
And they lived off of the grid.
Yeah,
they didn't need society.
Yeah.
Proud Boys can't do anything by themselves.
Yeah, no, they can't.
They exist within the system. They can't complain about the system.
Yeah.
Which a cult can't do now because you will be found.
Yeah, you'll be found.
There's too many surveillance posts, too many cameras. I mean, to be considered a hidden population now, you'd have to be a tribe in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In Brazil or something.
So
India or something.
So the leader, the accountant, and the whatever the guy who put on the barbecues, the event guy, they all died as well.
They went down with the ship.
So the money went somewhere.
Yeah.
All that millions and millions.
A lot of money.
Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars went somewhere.
Do you got to give them props in their convictions, yo?
Yeah.
Because they died with the ship. They went down.
They went down with the ship.
They didn't. There's no leaders I can think of today that would go down with their belief systems.
Yeah, no.
They're all just spitting out bile and just to keep a name.
Yeah.
But these guys, they rather die, literally rather die for their people.
There's a lot of cults back in the 90s, man.
What was it about the 90s that breeded so many cults?
Okay, so my theory was that that television became more accessible to people, and that stations were trying to grow their networks and their markets, and there was this big push for TV to be the big thing.
Yeah.
And so they were out there looking for stories all the time. And then these weird stories would come up, like these motherfuckers, and then they would be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's go dig, let's go find out." So this television journalism gig became different in the 90s.
Because Natural Born Killers came out around that time too, and that movie was about that.
And people were intrigued.
A reporter chasing around this serial killing couple.
Yeah.
And they got their own little tribe, right?
Yeah. And it became reality. And this is where like the Geraldo and all the, the fucking action reporting. Shock TV started coming. And these guys were like, and you got to remember, they were on Phil Donahue. They were on Oprah. They were on Sally Jeffrey Raphael.
Right, yeah.
And, the guy who smoked all the time. The guy, remember him? Morton Downey Jr.?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
they were all in all those shows and promoting it. And then wackos would be sitting at home masturbating going, Oh, yes. Yes, I want to join that fucking cult. Where do I sign up?
I feel like every year that we've done an episode, we've talked about a cult of some kind.
It's because they're everywhere.
It's interesting.
I'd like to say that this next little portion of the 90s Ride is sponsored by Redbubble.com. Redbubble.com is a great little website that I'd like to go to. They're not a sponsor.
Shout out.
But they have some motherfucking great T-shirts and some great stickers. Nice. And I have this one on order that's going to go on the back of my van.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one. It's and this is a little segment I'm going to dedicate to Redbubble.com called Fuck the Royals.
Fuck the Royals.
Dun, 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 insert music here. And we're going to go back to 1994 where one of the... We don't like the Royals. I don't like the Royals.
Nope.
And I think they're just a bunch of pompous pricks. And this episode of Fuck the Royals, we're going to talk about 1994 incident that almost took out the head of the snake. Almost took the snake out. She usually she's riding side saddle, but today she's riding like a man or whatever, cowboy.
Her hips are in check.
Or whatever it is.
Artificial hips are locked
I didn't mean that
loaded.
Man thing. That was a wrong comment. I didn't mean that. I meant she's just riding like a cowboy, I guess. I don't know. The 1994, the Queen fell off her horse. This was a big deal.
Yeah, it really
People
was.
got a little bit crazy about this. She was riding along because she was quite the equestrian when she was just a little terrorist.
When she
and she
pre-reptile form.
Yeah. She used to ride in all the time and everything, and this was her part of her New Year's resolution, which I found out. So
interesting.
The New Year's resolution for 1994 for the Queen, it's true, was to get out on the horses, Ma. I think I'm going to get out on the horses. It's been years. It had been years for her, and you could see her old ass on there.
Well, the horse just knew, man.
The horse was like, "This is my chance."
Reptiles don't ride horses. Get off me.
Yeah.
She thought it was a snake.
Yes.
Check it off.
This is for the Persian Empire.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna
so gross.
butt you off.
So gross. You should have died. I know that's horrible to say, but you shouldn't be here.
She broke her left wrist.
That's it?
That's all that happened.
Flexible ass joints.
She doesn't know how to fall.
Flexible ass reptiles, what she is.
She put her hand down. Ah! And you could hear it probably when she hit. The squeal that came out, it was enough for the horse to like, yes. I loved it.
Cut it off.
No! Right? Oh, my dear, my dear.
Yep. Like Run DMC would say, down with the king. But
they
down with the queen.
Rallied in the world behind the queen. And
so terrible.
George Bush, who was the president at that time, 94? No, that was Clinton.
Yeah.
George Bush was right before Clinton.
Yep.
George Bush led the rally. He led the rally behind the Queen.
Piece of garbage.
What they did was at the time, they were like, oh, the Queen was getting a lot less press because of guess who? Diana, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the Queen was like, this was a marketing opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. They jumped on it. American press led by George Bush. A lot of celebrities jumped behind the Queen, showed it. 3 years later, he's knighted. Whatever. I'm just saying.
Gotta get that knightage. Oh, man. That's so hurtful.
We went from the Royals to something that the Royals obviously and probably
actively contributed to
and didn't give a shit about, which was the atrocities that happened in Rwanda in 1994. One of the best movies I've seen was Beetle in the Hotel Rwanda. Don Cheadle.
Brilliant. Got him his Oscar.
Was his Oscar movie?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, he deserved it, man.
Yeah, it was great.
This is a hard story, man. It's a very hard story.
It's hard to talk about in such a short amount of time. You know what I mean? Because of what really happened.
It needs a real deep dive.
But break it down for everybody.
So it's one of the only places in Africa that resisted, that kind of broke off the shackles of slavery faster than almost every other country in Africa. And it's a hard place to talk about because it's tribal warfare, right? And it's the Hutus and the Tutsis, and the idea that the Hutus were in power for a long time, and the Tutsi rebellion, and then the Hutus came back to take their land back. It's one of these tribal warfare that I don't think we'll ever really understand because we don't know the history. There's really no recorded written history that goes back further than a couple of hundred years. And when this army came back to liberate the country, there was a massive genocide. And I think, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but it was like 800,000 people murdered in like 6 months.
Yeah.
So it was this wholesale
Huge.
slaughter of people. And it's essentially by machete.
Yeah.
They didn't really use a lot of guns.
Not a lot of bullets.
Yeah. So this was hand to body slaughtering people by the hundreds of thousands. And the worst part about it is that the UN was sent in to peacekeep and did nothing.
That stood right by.
They were authorized to not take action and watch people get slaughtered by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And this eventually turned into the movie Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
By Don Cheadle played a significant role in creating this story that people really didn't know about.
Yeah, and it was brought to light by Oprah and brought to light by a lot of celebrities, but then it was shut down
because news networks wanted no part of it.
They didn't do a marathon or telethon for Rwanda.
No, because you got to understand the British, whatever the remnants of the British Empire are, and the American power structure benefited from the looting of Africa.
Yeah.
So highlighting what was happening in
The
Africa
raping.
was not in their interests.
Yeah.
Even now with AFRICOM and China and these countries that are still pillaging Africa.
Yeah.
This was one of the ways that they could turn a blind eye to what was happening because those black people killing black people. This is not us.
Yeah.
We're not involved. But when you starve a country economically and deprive them of their resources,
Yeah.
who are they going to kill?
Saudi Arabia.
They can't. It's not like the people of Rwanda could go and kill British
Bastards.
people. They didn't have the means to go to war with the British Empire or with the U.S. They killed each other.
Yeah. So it was definitely Saudis involved there.
Big part of it,
right?
Yeah,
Definitely British.
Oh, for sure.
100%,
Had all of it.
1994,
Yeah,
right? It was
definitely.
America.
America definitely had.
It was
their-
America
their
standing by,
grips.
not doing anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, they all stood by, did nothing. America had even then had the largest military in the world.
Yeah.
They've had the largest military in the world since World War II, essentially. So they could have easily stepped in and been a peacekeeping force. And the fact that they now say, well, we didn't know what we could have done, give me a break. They intervene everywhere in the world when resources are involved. But when there's mass murder, they're like,
Yeah.
do we really want to get involved?
Is there oil in the ground?
Yeah.
Are they standing on oil?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Fuck them. Leave them.
So after oil, what is there left to?
Oh, there's so many mineral resources.
It's just water,
oh
right?
my God.
So
many
Canada's in
minerals.
trouble?
Gold, silver,
Water.
Endless amount. Africa is a mineral resource.
Yeah.
The country itself is a mineral resource.
Yeah.
So they have been exploited, will continue to be exploited. China exploits them now more than anybody else you
Oh,
could
big
possibly
time.
imagine.
Big time.
While America sits back and collects tax checks. And let's not forget that France still gets paid for slavery being abolished. Let's not forget.
Wow.
They
Really?
still get a check from some African countries because they ended slavery.
Wow.
And they still have to pay back that economic resource of
Crazy.
eliminating slavery.
So it's never ending.
Never ending. And those
It's
countries will be in
tax and
perpetual
debt.
debt forever. They
So
built it that way.
tragic.
Yeah. Horrible story. But you should really look at, if you really want a condensed version of the history, watch Hotel Rwanda.
Such a great movie,
Yeah.
man.
And it'll just give you reference. And maybe
Yeah.
you'll do your due diligence and do some Google searches. Which
It's
we
a
didn't
true
have
story,
access to
right?
back then. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a true story.
Yeah, we didn't have access to the Google searches, but now you do, and you can educate yourself.
Yeah.
It's a hard story to look at.
It is. It's a really hard story. And, what people now don't understand is like they hide this from you now.
Big time.
There is enough power in the media and enough power in content that they can just overwhelm news stories like this. This happens all the time.
I have kids that have gone through the education system and are going through the education system, and they have no idea that this happened.
Yeah.
If I did not directly teach them myself that this happened, they would have no context that this is something that happened because
Yeah.
it's not in any textbook or in any history lesson.
Yeah.
You will never get a reference.
And what's really weird, like people don't get it, it's hard to wrap your head around this, is that we knew more about this stuff back in the day than we do now.
Because it's never mentioned.
It's never mentioned now.
No.
Back then, we knew about this.
It was a news story.
It was almost like, it was weird because in the 80s, there was like Farm Aid and Live Aid and all these things that they were raising money for Africa. Remember Ethiopia, right?
Yeah.
AIDS, they did an AIDS one.
Christmas.
Yeah, right? All that shit they raised money
Commercials,
for.
yeah.
And then it stopped. Right? Remember that? It just stopped.
Well, I think a part of the reason why it stopped is because people start to understand that the money's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Where are these hundreds of millions of dollars going that you raise?
Yeah.
If you can see direct impact being done, there's some celebrities that take pockets of money and have direct impact on society and in Africa and help build these cities and provide infrastructure.
Yeah.
And these majority of the time Christian charities that would have these hundreds of millions of dollars. Where did the money go? And I think it started to become a reality that we can't keep hiding that we're stealing all this money.
Yeah.
So let's just stop it.
So now they do nothing and do no advertising and
Nope. Just let checks come in.
just go online, just click online.
That's it.
1994 was, we weren't just getting rid of innocent good people. We were actually getting rid of probably the biggest monster. I don't know if there's a bigger monster that's ever roamed the earth than this guy.
It's pretty close to
Like,
the top.
okay,
It's
there
pretty
are
close to the top.
there are people who have committed mass genocides, but they've
Yeah.
given orders and
Right.
told people to slaughter.
Right.
But to actually get your hands dirty,
Yes.
maybe like who's the guy from Haiti? Pol Pot? Is that Pol Pot?
Pol Pot, yeah.
Pol Pot?
Yeah.
Maybe he got his hands dirty. I would say like
Yeah. I mean, the horror of the acts of this guy.
of this guy.
Comparable to would be maybe Ed Gein. Ed Gein was pretty horrible.
Oh yeah.
Robert Picton
Yes.
and his brother.
Yes.
Right. I can't think of many that were worse.
Yeah, there's some bad ones in 19.
Probably inspired Hannibal Lecter, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, maybe. 1994 was the ending of, racism was really big in 1994.
Because the NWA, I think, was a big part of it.
Yeah, and like there was a lot of like Ku Klux Klan was popping off. Like there was like a lot of racists, like in South Africa. They were actually. It's funny. Right after I meant to say this, right after Mandela was elected, they started putting racists in jail and executing them.
Yeah.
There was a mass execution of white supremacists, and so it was like it was and yeah, and this guy here, man.
Yeah.
He was probably the biggest murder of all. We're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. If you guys don't, if you're not watching, he was.
Chances are you know who he is because there's so many crime documentaries that are all over Netflix, and I know y'all love that.
A couple years earlier, 91, he was arrested for eating about 14 or 20 people or something like that, and kept him in his.
You know what the horrible part is? Okay, I was reading something about him, and one of his victims escaped. Right. Ran on foot. Tore up clothes, barefoot, found a police officer, and told the police officer, "This guy's trying to kill me."
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Dahmer had come out of his apartment, put his arm around the guy, and said, "No, it's just we're just having a fight.
Yeah.
We're just having a fight." And the cop was like, "Yeah, go,
Yeah.
get out of here."
Gay people.
Could have prevented the murder
Yeah.
of one of his victims,
Yeah.
but because of the privilege of having the blue eyes, blonde hair, and white skin. He was able to tell a police officer, "No, sir, this guy who's bloody and beaten is fine. He's with me." And the cop's like, "Sure, go ahead."
And he was a black boy.
Take
he was
him
a
home.
black kid.
Yeah, take him home. And then murdered him and ate him.
Yeah. So yeah, he was a black kid, right? And at that time, if you were a cop and gay lovers came out on the street, you were in, whoa, no, I'm not gonna touch this one,
No
Bob.
part of it.
You gay lovers take your gay stuff inside and just like leave us. We don't want any part of it. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what
And
killed
also
him.
the assumption that if you're gay, you have AIDS.
Yeah. Don't touch me.
Y'all got that AIDS. Y'all got
90,
that HIV.
94. That's how they thought.
100%.
Right? Like, oh, don't be touching me. Your
They
gay
thought it,
stuff.
even though we knew it was sexually transmitted,
Yeah.
people were closed-minded, thought it was airborne. You're going to breathe on me, I'll get AIDS.
Yep.
I don't want to get that gay stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's so
Yeah.
true. Like, it was such a reality, man. And that's why when he was eating people back, that was,
Eating people.
yeah, it was so different.
His fridge was full of parts.
Yeah.
And
So
the
different.
more that got exposed, the more we started to understand that it was a sexual perversion as well. He was a homosexual as well. So he would take men home under the guise of having a sexual relationship, and then kill them and eat them. And it was really smart because people didn't care about gay people showing up dead or go missing.
Yeah.
People didn't care.
Didn't give a damn.
So you could take gay people
Yeah.
and they could disappear and really nobody would care because even the families were frowning on their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So even the families wouldn't take ownership of losing their sons to this horrible.
We were
monster.
living in a non-reality, homophobic, racist
Yeah.
environment in the 1994
Big time.
that didn't embrace individuality whatsoever, but it was starting.
The seams were breaking.
People were eating each other.
They couldn't hold it, right? You couldn't contain it.
In 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer was clubbed to death by a fellow inmate. Christopher Scarver. Shout out Christopher Scarver, brother.
Great work.
In the Columbian Correctional Institution Gymnasium in Portage, Wisconsin.
That must have felt good. That must have
In the
felt
shower.
great.
So,
As he was beating his face in, that must have felt great.
so here's the true story about what happened with this. I know this. It's been documented. You can look it up. Guys, Christopher Scarver's sitting in his cell, and cop comes to the thing and says, "Hey, Scarver, you got a visit." And he's like, "Oh, what? That's weird. Visit?" Guard leads him down through the thing. He's got a lawyer visit. Gets him out of the thing. Takes him down. Stops him in this hallway. And they look at him and they say, "Listen, when you go back to your room, when you look underneath your bed, you're going to find a lot of things that would make your life really good in jail. You're going to find it underneath there, and it's all good. All you need to do is go into the gymnasium, to the shower, where we have a protective custody case in there who's taking a shower alone because he can't be with other people. So we shower him in the gym, and you'll know what to do when you go in there. And there's a clean set of clothes right here, and blah, blah, blah." So the dude goes in there and beat the crap. Like, he went in there, he went, "Oh my God, payday."
Berserker.
Like, he was a lifer guy. Well, he wasn't a lifer, but he is now. And I don't think that's for the Jeffrey Dahmer thing. It was for something else. And he went in there and beat him and changed his clothes and got out and came back. And the guards just kind of
Took one for the team.
took for the team. Came back, had a bunch of cigarettes under his mattress or whatever it was that he had.
Ooh.
You know, he got done right, and you know that's what
This is what should have happened to Epstein. Should have happened to Epstein.
probably did.
But instead he's living on his island.
Think so?
Yeah, I think he got out. Because the cameras broke, right?
Yeah.
Just in the hallway, cameras broke.
Well, that's good because in the High Freeze in the season 2, we're going to be going to more individual stories and
in.
digging into stories. But for now, on 1994, what was the hit song? Number one song in 1994. There's two numbers. I'm going to ask you the number one song.
It's no good.
What do you think it was for the year?
See
And then
her
I'm going to
face.
ask you the number one song, Billboard song of the year for 1994. But
Ooh, I'm gonna get both wrong. But if we see
what was the
Mariah
Grammy
Carey's
winner?
face-
no, that's just to throw you off.
oh, that's tricky. So 1994-ish. I know MJ was still popping off. This is not black and white time, is it? I don't think that was. Ooh,
I'm gonna play it
1994.
on my thing here.
So
to the
we
mic.
got. No, this is post Chronic album, so nothing off of there. Definitely not gonna be a hip hop song. I would probably say something Backstreet Boys.
Oh, look at you coming out with Backstreet.
Yeah,
the
this
worst
might
fucking
be-
possible guest, period.
This might be Backstreet Boys time. And it may be that Backstreet's back.
All right. Wrong.
Okay. Oh,
The,
so you're not
uh,
a pop music fan.
All right, here, I'm going to show you here. Hold on a second. 1984 Song of the Year.
Wouldn't for
Oh,
me,
so-
y'all. Wouldn't for me.
second.
I was a 15-year-old hip hop head
Second.
with no idea what was happening in pop music. And even now, I have no idea what's happening in pop music. But the only reason I have some kind of context is because I got a couple of teenage kids that still play pop music.
Why you looking all sad? Come here.
Hold up, R. Kelly. I am not one of your groupies. I know you didn't even try to play me like
Wait a
one.
minute. Goodness! Why you going off like that?
Robert.
This one make you feel.
Why you do me like that, girl? Oh, jeez. As the crowd screams his name,
This
millions of men's daughters in the audience. What song is it?
up and down. Mama telling me no.
I can't even believe we say his name on our shows, man. 1994, Bump and Grind was Billboard Song of the Year. R. Kelly
Sick. Sick.
taking down Whitney Houston in that one.
Bodyguard.
It's a Bodyguard. I will. That was her big year where she won all the awards.
And she was on crack then too, y'all.
yeah, that's how
was
she
a
hit those
gift.
notes.
She was a gift to the universe, yo. Her voice is fucking amazing. I played her national anthem from the Super Bowl to my kids, and they were floored.
Were they crying?
They were no, but they were showing me the goosebumps. My goosebumps.
Also that year, My Life, the
Love
second
it.
studio album by Mary J. Blige was released.
Ooh, that was a
her
banger.
her best one.
Yeah, that was a great album.
top
Shout out
R&B
Mary
album.
J. Blige,
Top
still singing,
R&B
still
album.
doing her thing.
There was another huge album that was released that year. Let's see. Do we have it forward?
Oh,
Shout out to Queasy.
the epic.
The debut studio album of the man who only waited 28 years to win a Grammy.
It doesn't even matter anymore.
And he's just like, oh, this Grammy.
Got a billion, biatch.
What
Don't
am I
need it.
going to do with this thing? Rapper Nas released Illmatic, one of the best albums. It ain't hard to tell.
Of all time. Of all damn time.
The World Is Yours. Remember how big The World Is Yours was?
Amazing. Amazing.
The crossover track that really, really did something for rap behind the
But
scenes.
it ain't hard to tell with that MJ sample.
Oh.
Dude, there could not be a greater way to debut your career than with a song like that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Shout out Nas, man.
The production team on Illmatic.
Oh,
All right,
beautiful.
just so you understand how great that this came out because of the
hip-hop
production team.
royalty.
DJ Premier,
All over it.
Large Professor,
Oh, man.
Pete Rock,
Yeah.
Q-Tip, and LES.
Bang it.
Can you imagine those guys working on your album?
Yo, that is. I mean, the thing is, Nas was like
Unbelievable.
coming up at the time, rumored in that area that he was going to be a great.
Yeah.
So these producers were more than happy to jump on this track. They knew he was going to be something
Yeah.
special,
Oh, yeah.
and he's still putting out hits.
Life's a bitch.
Yeah, man.
Also, what happened in hip hop in 1994, my favorite of all of them, man, I loved
man,
her.
She's so great.
She was great.
So great.
What would she be doing now?
She'd be a massive superstar.
She would have been like
Massive.
She would have gone the Flavor Flav route, but she would have not been Flav. She would have done it properly.
And
I
so
believe.
many females would not have careers because of her. She was that damn talented.
Yeah, we're talking about the T and the TL, or the L and the TLC. Lisa Lefly.
Lopez. Yeah. Singer, rapper, actor. She could do it all, and she looked fantastic.
Yeah, she was a star.
She looked fantastic.
Unfortunately, passed away sadly years and years ago.
In a horrible accident.
Horrible. It was a car accident, right?
Yeah. And she actually navigated it. She was on camera talking about what was happening, and then they all kind of. Very sad, man. She was signed to death row, right? She was gonna do some amazing things,
Yeah.
and she would have definitely been in movies.
Yeah.
You know, she had the look, she had the skill, she had everything going for her.
Big time.
She was on the Dr. Sebi died. We were talking about earlier.
Was
doing
she?
Dr. Sebi thing.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, she was special, man.
She was
Very
basically the
special.
female Tupac.
Yeah, I'd say so.
She was the female Tupac, and she had that star quality that
Yeah,
Tupac
she was
had.
amazing, man. She burned her boyfriend's house down. That hit her.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Oh,
is
nice.
she was going on with Andre Rison, who was a baseball player back in.
Baseball or football?
He was
Atlanta Hawks, I think.
Oh yeah, and the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, what am I thinking? Yeah, he played football, and she lit one of his runners on fire, and it burned down his.
Well,
mansion.
he was a shithead to her, so he deserved it.
Yeah,
Shout out Lisa Left Eye, R.I.P.
yeah. Oh, she was
Amazing,
great.
amazing human.
Yeah, that was 1994. She burnt the house down. She got arrested.
Yeah.
She took her little.
And she
Cute
got
little
that
mugshot.
look in her eye too, like she was a little bit crazy. It's just fantastic.
Never knew she had a birthmark on her face. Covered that up really well.
Yeah, she was you know, a lot of women that have careers in the music industry and are able to be free and open and daring and not give
Yeah.
a fuck is because
She-
of Lisa Left Eye Lopez.
Yeah, classic. And then finally, 1994 was the
Wow.
year that movies changed. Wow. Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction hit cinemas in September 1994.
Unbelievable.
Right? It was
94,
huge.
yo.
Huge hit in 94.
Jeez.
Basically, people don't remember movies before this time because all movies after this changed over into Quentin Tarantino style. We don't understand what movies were like before. Movies were longer with longer scenes and with shitty dialogue.
Yeah.
And after Quentin Tarantino came here and took over, it was over. This soundtrack sold over 2 million albums.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time. And the thing I really loved about this movie is that it revived careers.
Yeah, it did.
Brought John Travolta back from the grave.
Did.
Made Sam Jackson relevant.
Yeah.
made Bruce Willis a cool action star again.
Yeah, again. Ving
And-
Rhames was,
Right? And can we just say that Uma Thurman is one of the most underappreciated actresses
yeah, she was great.
of all time.
Yeah,
She's created some of the most iconic movie scenes
yeah.
ever.
Unbelievable.
And because of that piece of shit Harvey Weinstein, she just doesn't want to do movies.
It's really sad.
Dude, Kill Bill,
Yeah, amazing. All her
and
stuff.
she's not even an action star.
Yeah. It was amazing, that Kill Bill. Like,
Yeah.
even in this, like, her role in this
dude.
one was so classic.
Can I tell you, man? I introduced this to my son.
Mm-hmm.
We watched this with my kid probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, yo, we're going to introduce, because every now and then we like to introduce them to masterpieces from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is obviously one of them. And it's really hard for this new generation to sit through a 2.5 hour movie. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he didn't leave his seat.
That's awesome.
He was glued. And it's, you know what's weird, man? I hate saying it like this, but I wouldn't find Uma Thurman attractive
Mm-hmm.
when she's not in movies. It's just not my type. But when I see her in movies,
Yeah.
dude, she just lights up the screen, man.
She's got that star quality about
Yeah,
her.
it's something so magical about her. And if
Yeah.
you don't know, check this movie out.
The
It is a
best.
masterpiece.
It is really one of the best. It's
Yeah.
it did change movies, and like a lot of kids who are going to learn screenwriting or want to get in the movies, you know, this one always comes up because it's a prototypical. The screenplay is perfect. The characters are great.
The writing is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal writing,
Bring
right?
fire and vengeance down upon.
Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing is, though, Sam Jackson's face from this movie is a meme.
Yeah,
By the thousands.
yeah, it is.
So
yeah.
when you young kids watch this movie, you're gonna be like, that's where it came from? That's where it came from? That's where it came from? McRoyal? What?
yeah,
There will be so many references that you'll understand after watching
McRoyale with cheese. That's awesome.
it. Fantastic.
All right, well, I think that's 1994 for us, homeboy.
Pieces of it.
Yeah, little pieces of it. And remember, go in there and research the 90s. You know, a lot of, if you're younger now and you're listening to stuff, like everything you know today comes from the 90s.
Yeah, and just remember,
Most likely.
we visit a year, we're just touching on some of the topics. We will go back to these years and dive into other topics because there's just so much that happened in the 90s to pave the way for the life that y'all live today. ALITE, y'all.
Oh, don't forget, you're going to pick the ball.
ACDJ.
We're picking the ball for
And
next
we got to
week.
pick a ball to introduce our next year. Mike is prepared. I'm not gonna look.
All right, tell us, where are we going next week?
The year after 94, 1995.
Oh, 95, dude.
Poppin'.
I was 20 years old in
I was a
1995.
16-year-old just getting my license and life was changing.
I was beating on grown men in a boxing ring.
Fury.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you a great fight story next week.
Love it. High Praise presents
All right, thank you, everybody, for coming in.
90s Ride.
Yeah, baby. We'll see you next week, dude. Oh, don't forget, join you on the On Point podcast.
On Point Podcast
Yes.
with myself and Queasy.
Gotta always rep it. I always.
Well, we got 3 now. We gotta check us out in the High Praise presents. This is the 90s Ride.
Yeah.
On Point Podcast next. We got a
Everything.
lot going, y'all.
Got a lot going and more coming.
Yes.
That's the best part.
Beautiful.
All right, a couple 90s guys out.
Peace.